Hi, everyone. Namaste. Welcome. Good to see you all. Get your front row seat. Good to be here. And thank you, Susan Telford, for co-hosting. Appreciate you. Yeah, here we are. Well, we're looking at the discourses, number 411 to 420. And I just want to give a kind of a heads up. We have a new trailer coming for episode 2. Episode 2 has Francis Lucille in it. I'm really happy about that. The trailer doesn't have Francis in it, but the trailer's really good. And it's they're tweaking it right now. I think we're going to have it ready sometime next week and let you guys take a look at it. And looking forward to actually I'll be happy to be finished with this book. And there were some recommendations for new books for next year. We'll probably start the next book study after I get back from India, and I'll be back on February 12th. And we have a couple of spots open still for the India tour. I was on the Zoom call with Venkatesh. He's one of the directors of the Bangalore Ashram, Ramana Ashram. He's made arrangements to have teachers, some of the realized beings that are in charge of the Ramana Ashram in Tiruvannamalai. They're going to come and they're going to support the intensives with some rigorous, deep self-inquiry, Ramana style. And he's also going to set up a guide. We're going to be guided around Arunachala, and we're going to go into Ramana's caves where the public isn't allowed right now. And you have to sort of navigate through the monkeys to get up there. But we're making those arrangements. And if you have time in your schedule, February 1st to the 10th, just send me an email. There's still space to meet us there and engage in that intensive at Ramana's ashram. And it's in an ashram that's called Yogiville. It's about 10 kilometers away. You can see the Arunachala mountain from Yogiville. It's a very experiential trip. So anyway, little commercial there. There's some room if you want to join us. And thank you for being here. Now, we've got some, as most of you would attest, that we've got some pretty heavy discourses to look at today. And Susan, what do you think about these discourses? Oh, your sound?
Sorry, I muted myself because I was coughing. I just sent Jenny a private message saying, I'm going to need your help today, Jenny. So that's what I think about these. Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
I
there's a
thought the
lot
same
of
thing.
yeah, yeah. So, but let's see how we go.
Yeah. Knowledge has nothing to know except knowledge.
So
And
for
yeah,
the
go ahead.
yeah for this one, I was in the Evolve book group, we're looking at Awake It's Your Turn by Angelo DeLulo, and yesterday we were looking at that all we know of the world, all we know of our experience is body sensations, sense perceptions, and thoughts. That's it. So our only experience of the world is in the knowing of it, is in that knowing. So that's what I felt this was pointing to, was that everything other than knowledge is name or form, but the minute you know them, they become knowledge itself. They're known in the knowing of them.
Isn't that interesting the way he flips many of these discourses we'll look at today? He flips the idea to to recognize that the only way this thing happens is the knowing of it.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. He
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
he says, so you do not really know anything other than knowledge. Thus, the world is not. Then where is bondage?
Yeah. And
So,
if you really look at that for yourself, is that really true? That all I know is knowledge, and it is. It's like you can't find anything out with that knowing. There's nothing out with it because anything.
and Susan, I just watched you. You paused to check that, right? Right, and that's the thing that we don't. The faculty that we don't have, or that isn't entrained. We're entrained to be a separate identity. That's the conditioning. But you're Bill, you're Susan, you're Karen, you're Jenny. We're we're conditioned to start with this, and you have to check in, as he's implying. Thus, so you do not really know anything other than knowledge, or the knowing of it, the knowing. Thus, the world is not. So it's only you, is basically what he's saying, and it's not you, it's you that's you.
Consciousness.
Right. Interesting.
Mm.
Amy, what did you say, Amy? Amy said, so could we say that knowing a name or a form is really knowing itself? Yes. And,
Because it's not us that knows; it's awareness that knows. Consciousness knows. Yeah.
yeah. And if you take that a little further back, it's knowing itself as you. So it's you knowing you in what is perceived as another. Pretty wild. Who knows knowing? Yeah, right. Who knows knowing? That's funny, Holger. There's no who.
Sounds like the start of a Dr. Seuss book, doesn't it? Who knows knowing?
There
No
it
one
is.
knows knowing.
That's, yeah. And also, I know he spelled that correctly, right? NOSC. 412. What is the relation between the life principle and dead matter?
So, what I thought of here was that everything borrows its reality from consciousness. And so, without that light of consciousness, everything is just dead. That's where the life comes from.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is that it in itself, it is nothing. It is dead. It is inert. It's nothing. It's like a corpse. When the life force is not there, there's nothing really there. I mean, there there are memories. But what are those? What are the memories? The life force isn't there, but what about the memories? That's an interesting question. Hey, Atmananda, what about the memories? everything perceivable is dead matter. So they would also be they memories only happen in the now. Memory, even memory is only happening right now, right? So it's always now. Memories aren't real. They aren't true.
So I'd like to investigate that a wee bit further because let's just play devil's advocate for a minute. So everything perceivable is dead matter, but I am perceiving you right now. And you're not dead matter. You don't appear to be dead matter. You appear to be something alive.
Right, but you're objectifying me as a as a body mind. So who is the
But we're
you that
talking
you're
about perception. He's saying everything perceivable.
is dead matter. Okay, yeah. Well, everything
I'm saying it
perceivable
doesn't
is
seem to be.
right, but he everything perceivable dead matter is time and space, is form, right?
Any of you got something to say about this?
The life principle.
Uh, yes, Susan, when you look at Bill, then what you're seeing is an image on the screen, and that image is not alive. Now, supposing Bill were in the same room as you, okay, what you would be perceiving would be Bill's body, and that body just consists of cells, and the cells consist of atoms, molecules, etc. And still, what you would not be perceiving life. You would be just perceiving matter. Now, to say it's dead is that's where it becomes tricky, because a dead matter implies matter that was previously alive and is now dead. But he doesn't mean that. He just means inert matter that never was alive, because it's just matter.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that actually does match with a corpse, because the corpse is just uh it's just skin and bones, and there's no movement in it, right?
Yeah.
It's the same,
And
that's the same thing.
and the life principle that is animating that can never be perceived. We can't see it.
Right. Yeah. You can
No,
know
you're
it.
deducing it.
You're
Hmm?
deducing it. Yeah. You're deducing it because the matter is appears to be animated by something.
Yes,
That right, Jenny?
exactly.
Hmm. It says looking from another stand. Well, it says life transcends perception as well as conception. So that's what you just said. Looking from another standpoint, the life principle is the isness in everything. From this point of view, there is no such thing as dead matter. Everything perceived is lit up by the self and is alive. And that's what you just said, Susan, that everything borrows its life force from consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eve said, I think the last sentence in this paragraph points to the fact that everything perceived is lit up, the self, and is alive. Yes. Yeah. Everything borrows its existence from consciousness, from the life principle. All right. Through sound to the ultimate. this is kind of, I don't know. I I went over and over this one, and these, and you can get to I like the point where he gets to the two realms, but the four stages of progression to the ultimate. Um, I
Well,
don't know that
I did a
I
wee bit of
connected with them.
research on this one about what was this thing about sound, and so the um, if we start at number 4 and work our way up, the para part is it was believed that sound originates in the root chakra. And so is it, when the sound begins, it's inaudible, it's coming from the root chakra. That's the para stage. Then the Pashyanti, that's when it comes up to the solar plexus. The Madhyama is when it gets to the heart chakra, and the Vaikari is when it becomes audible. It's the use of the throat and the tongue and the lips and the teeth to make the audible sound. So that's the stages of the production of the sound from a yogic standpoint. So then he's using that as an analogy for again, I found it more useful to kind of go from 4 back to 1, I think. But anyway, start at 1. It's saying Vaikari, which is the analogy, is the actual audible sound, can very well be represented by every perceivable expression as body. So that's the point at which it's become, like the sound has become audible, the body is perceivable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second stage, that's when it was in the heart chakra, can very well be represented by every expression as mind, inaudible, so we can't hear it, but still with language, like a thought formed.
Right.
Pashyanti can very well be expressed by the languageless, apparently limited eye or witness. So the witness stage of consciousness. Prior to the thought, the witness of it.
Okay. Got it.
And the para part can very well be represented by the real self, beyond even the limitation of oneness, or beyond even the apparently limited eye. So beyond the witness, the absolute, I suppose.
It's interesting that it has a stage, that it has almost it has a what seems like gradual, but it's almost like cognition goes through those stages instantly.
And that is kind of the stages, though, isn't it? Because at first you just think you're a body. You don't assume that you're anything other than a body. That's just what we believe, isn't it? Until we come across something. And then we realize that there's mind and thought, and we start thinking, oh, there's something more. And then we become the witness of all of that. And then we realize the self. So it's the same kind of progression. And he's saying that for the sage, it then becomes almost like a sort of line. I kind of saw it as a line, with like a seesaw, almost, with a sage on one end and the ordinary man on the other end. And the sage sees the mind and the body just as illusions, and the self is real, where the ordinary man's on the other end, and he sees the body as absolutely real. This is the realest of the real, the body. And then the mind is a bit more subtle, and the self is just not even considered.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to reverse. Reminded me of the, Ramana Maharshi said, come back the way you came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what's interesting in the full picture is that the sage knows everything as itself.
Yeah.
Nothing is, even though it seems for the purpose of distinction, it says illusion, reality. and then knows that illusion is also reality.
Amy said, "This is a map. It shows how the infinite absolute progresses into gross form, but it's all happening in the absolute. Come back the way you came. The carpet seems to unfold and fold back up in a single instant."
Hey, that's right out of the Course, isn't it? Yeah, funny. Yeah, that's good. It's a map. That is what this is. This is a map of understanding. To the ultimate, 414 says, to the ultimate through Dharma and Dharmi. And the two, Dharmi, or actually, Dharma is kind of like the story, don't you think? The Dharmi and Dharma. The Dharmi is the changeless background. So Dharmi is the witness or existence upon which the dharmas come and go. The story comes and goes. I'm calling the dharma like the story, the narrative.
Yeah. I think it's very similar to he says the ordinary man thinks that the body is the realist part on that end of the spectrum, and the example that he gives with the book, the book is, you give the attention to the book, that appears to be the real thing. The is part of it is not even considered until you're on this kind of path. You don't think of the is, do you? You just think of the objects.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with meditation, mantras. You have to, that has to be erased. The focus on the breath, that's totally, that has to be fixed. I mean, that has to be clarified. It's a good starting point, because it for a moment it stills the mind, but it has to be seen as it. We're not really looking at the breath, or being aware of the breath. We're really being aware of the awareness of the breath. And that's what he's talking about here. It's the reversing the old, the mindset, reversing the old, the thought system. He says, in the second paragraph, no, in the third paragraph, here also, after the book,
Mhm.
here also the correct order is reversed by putting the changeless after the changing. Immediately after every perception, the changeless part is conveniently forgotten.
Yeah.
Right? Instantly, it's forgotten. And the
And he
changing
says,
part, book, alone is emphasized correctly. It ought to be said that existence, dravya, expresses itself as book, guna, or in other words, existence books, book being used as a verb. Thus, every existing noun should be considered a verbal noun, and its expression a regular verb or attribute.
yeah, it's like in the last one that I co-hosted, there was a bit about eyeing. It's the same
Yeah,
kind of thing, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like it's everything is ising,
yeah. I like ising.
ising.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. He says, in this sense, in the last paragraph, it is said that Lord Krishna is to be considered the only male and all other beings females.
I didn't get that at all. I have no idea
Yeah,
where that's coming.
what is he
I'd love to
talking
know
about?
if Jenny, if you've got any light to shed on that. I'd like to hear
Yeah.
that. Amy said in the
So
last
I think that's just Shakti and Shiva, essentially. So Shiva is the background, the pure consciousness, and Shakti is the movement of that consciousness, the manifestation, and that's really what he's referring to. But he's using more the Vedantic way of saying it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Amy said in the last paragraph, Lord Krishna's mother is the only woman and all other beings male.
That's funny.
And true.
Bill,
And that would be true. And true. Right. And true.
I've unmuted myself here, Bill, because this reminds me of our conversation. And, where the Bible says, Adam begat Joe, and Joe begat Sam, and Sam begat Alexander, and Alexander begat Simon. It's like, there's no uterus here.
Not a woman's sight.
It kind of blows my mind the way these men think they self-create. I mean, isn't that actually just a total expression of ego?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And it makes no
Always
sense.
bears repeating, Amy, I feel.
There's no uterus here.
Exactly.
How did all these men beget all these men?
Well, we all know they actually didn't, but it's just kind of funny.
It is, yeah.
It's just funny.
Thanks for the highlight. That's good. All right. Well, why does one seek truth elsewhere?
Well, he said it in a perfect one-liner, hasn't he? Because he doesn't know that he himself is truth. So we seek outside. We seek everywhere.
Yeah.
For truth, for whatever is we're looking for on the spiritual path. We start off by seeking it out there until we realize,
Yeah.
turn within.
What is the test of love?
If you can never even dream of any kind of ill feeling towards another, that relationship can be said to be bordering on pure love. What is it? What is that which you cannot help loving? Atma alone. That's love for the self, isn't it?
Yeah. It's unconditional,
For the
no
one.
judgment, just everything is you. Yeah. The self alone is not selfish. It's knowing. It's known.
That's why I called my book of poems an endless namaste, because that's what it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Always seeing the self.
Yeah. Yeah. Unconditional only being. You can never even dream of any kind of ill feeling towards that other. It's just unconditional presence. Yeah. What is meant, 417, what is meant by sakalam, drisyam, jadam? Everything perceived is inert.
That's kind of what we talked about with 412, wasn't it? There's it just seemed to me to be a restatement. Someone maybe I kind of imagine someone was in the company and didn't quite understand what he said the first time, so they formulated the question slightly differently.
Yeah, or came late. Didn't quite get, wasn't grabbing that first explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then 418, who has any problem?
Yeah, I liked this one. It was kind of straightforward, I think, wasn't it? You
Yeah.
say that you have many problems, but I ask you, have you really any? So who's the you? No.
Yeah.
The only problems only arise on behalf of the seemingly separate self.
Well, and that's, when you first look at that, you might, and often you do, when you're first learning these ideas, you take that as a negative, like who's the I? And you take the challenge of the question and you say, well, investigate who's the I. And I remember, 10 years ago, not quite understanding that inquiry. What that inquiry is revealing is uh, who what is it that sees? Is it the person that's seeing? Is it the person having the experience? And it's only to trace back to identify what it is that sees the experience without objectifying it. What it is that sees the experience without it being labeled.
Yeah. And I think on a really practical level as well, he says, you'll find that every problem belongs to somebody other than yourself, namely to the body or the mind. And we can test that for ourselves. If we have a problem, is it a problem of the body or is it a problem of the mind? Is it a thought? Is it, what is the suffering? What is the problem? And then that takes you to self-inquiry, doesn't it? Well, is that who I am? Is that really who I am? So I can see, if I have an illness, for example, that's a problem of the body. But is the body who I am? So then you see, well, no, that's not who I am. So therefore, who I really am doesn't have a problem, even when the body has a problem. I don't have a problem. So the body can be sick, but I'm not sick.
Yeah, right. So, and bringing it, so that's a starting point. I mean, it's not the end. When the recognition that you're not the problem, you rest in the answer and allow the dissolution of the energy, let the energy be there fully and stay as the witness so that the dissolution of the energy that seemingly created the problem uh, self-resolves. In other words, it takes the energy off the body mind it will um, it will rest in and relax in that space of presence that's been realized. Rest in peace without the headstone. Yeah. It says you cannot, in the second paragraph, under who has any problem, you cannot talk of any problem unless you perceive it.
Well, that's just makes common sense, doesn't it? If you can't perceive the problem, then you don't know there's a problem.
Right. And if you're talking about it or thinking about it,
Yeah.
then your perception is you have a problem.
Well, I was really sort of asking myself this part. When you're the perceiver, you cannot simultaneously be the sufferer or enjoyer. I was thinking, I hadn't thought of that. If I'm perceiving, am I not suffering at the same time? Can they not happen concurrently? He's saying that they can't. When you are the perceiver, you cannot simultaneously be the sufferer. And then he gives the example of a patient can narrate the details of his disease to a doctor only as the perceiver and not as the sufferer.
Yeah, that makes sense though, because you're joining the experience or you're not. And it's subtle, Because if you're the experience, then you've left the witness.
I don't quite get that, I have to say. I was just thinking of that really practical thing of being in the doctor's surgery, telling the doctor about my illness, say. Narrating the details only as the perceiver and not as the sufferer. There's a disconnect there. Somebody help me with my disconnect. Jenny?
If you see it another way, Susan, and you're in the doctor's surgery, and instead of you thinking of it as me asking the doctor what is wrong with me, you think of it as just like I've taken this car to the garage because there's something wrong with it, and this clever mechanic will know exactly how to fix it.
Ah, right. So I could describe the malfunction.
Yeah. So it's what you feel yourself to be in that moment. If you feel yourself to be a body, then there will be suffering. But if you say, yeah, okay, so there's pain in the body. There's my left hip or my right wrist or whatever it is. But it's just like saying, the car. Well, it's the clutch. It makes this awful noise,
Thank you. That makes it clear. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. The truth is now and here. So it is everywhere. If it is not first found now and here, it will be found now nowhere else and no other time. The utterances of a sage in the sahaja state are bold and uncompromising, since they directly reflect the ultimate truth. Thinking along the lines of these bold utterances will itself be a pleasure, even on the path, and will take you right to the transcendental. So this is where the sage just goes back and embraces everything, knowing that everything is itself. That's pretty much what I'm getting.
I just love that part about the truth is now and here. If it's not here, then where could it be? It's just so self-evident, isn't it? It has to be here now. Always here.
You. It's always present as you. But not this. And this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is realization?
So he says realization is nothing but shifting the center of gravity or emphasis from the object to the subject in every perception. For example, I see the chair. Here, I comes first and chair next. But the ordinary man ignores the I. And it's so true, isn't it? It's so true. There isn't even a thought of the perceiver of that role. It's just everything is object focused until you step on this path.
Mm-hmm.
Correctly speaking, he ought to be emphasizing the subject I and ignoring the object chair. The God-given universe is God itself and can be nothing else. And invisible means not visible to the ordinary sense organs, but cognized by some higher faculty.
Yeah.
Where did he mention invisible? Did you say? I didn't see the word invisible. He defines the word invisible without having used it. Did I miss that?
invisible. Yeah. He says, invisible. What, yeah, I don't see what he's talking about on that.
Mhm.
There's no reference to that. Invisible means not visible. Maybe there was some other comment that didn't get picked up.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I like this, how this starts out though. Realization is nothing but shifting the center of gravity or emphasis from object to subject. So this is where when whatever situation you're in, this is meditation. This is where the shift from person to presence is available to everyone in an instant, just by shifting attention to that which is aware, and not as awareness. This is another subtle little uh, trick that the mind will trade your identity from person to the label awareness. So you have to shift it from person to presence, or that which is aware, that silent witness. And it's available to all of us in this, when we do these experiments, when we do what we call practices. It's just practicing our to be ourself. It's really bringing our attention from the objects of experience to the subject, to the being, to the isness of being. And that's what the entrainment is. It's giving us a new faculty of understanding that's changing. It's actually dissolving the old habits of the ordinary man or woman that we started out to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that which we thought ourselves to be, that which we thought was the subject, actually turns out to be just another object.
Yeah, yeah. The thing that starts the search is still the object.
Mhm.
Let's see, Andrew. When you die, people don't see you as a body. Not sure what you mean by that, Andrew. What do you mean? When you die, people don't see you as a body. What do they see you as? They see you as a memory, as a relationship, as a feeling. You want to say
Oh,
something on that?
Andrew?
Hi, Andrew.
I just realized, from attending so many funerals that when people see your dead body, I don't think they think it's you. They think the real you has left the body.
Yeah, and the real you it's distilled into the relationships, the love, and most people don't take it that deep, but it's really the relationships, the connections that they had with you in that bodysuit was all the connection that they had with themselves as their true nature.
Yeah. So it's we were talking about the dead matter.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So the body lying there to me sometimes seems like dead matter,
yeah,
and
So
the,
obvious, isn't it, especially if you're with a loved one when they die, and at the moment of death, it's so obvious, isn't it, that which made them has left. It's just a shell left, shell lying there.
yeah. That's what anyway, just
Thank
pointing something out. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah. Linda. Eureka, total shift. Yes, yes. We have the access to that total shift. That's the course calls it the holy instant, and or you can just pause and go from person to presence. And this is available. I mean, this will definitely keep you from getting your mouth in trouble if you step in your own words sometimes, like many of us have. I have. Oh, why did I say that? You know what I mean? Why? Damn! Why did I have to say that? Anyone else done that? Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. This is a long one. This is the last one. It's like 3 pages.
Yeah. So he's saying that knowledge is split into 2 kinds, objective knowledge and subjective knowledge. And objective knowledge relates to gross objects and subtle objects. So gross objects are like the body or things, yeah. And subtle objects are like sense perceptions or thoughts or bodily sensations.
Yeah.
And they can be acquired only through objective instruments of the same nature, from the intellect down to the gross body. And he says, for this, we readily seek the help of equally objective gurus. So gurus that are outside, like people, books, instruments, and other appliances. I thought that was quite funny. People and other appliances.
This is my appliance. Have you met my appliance?
But for the acquisition of subjective knowledge, so that's knowledge of the eye, none of the above instruments, nor anything objective, shall be of any avail. However, the objective instruments, if properly utilised, do the simple service of proving to you that you're not the body, senses, or the mind. So that's kind of like the first step, isn't it? That's the netty part of it. That you can use something objective to realise that you're none of those things. But they can do nothing more. And your intellect also cannot grasp anything beyond the objective. So that's the point at which, we come to the end of that part. We can't go any further with that because the mind can't get it.
Right.
It's not known through the mind.
Right. Yeah.
And then he talks about the importance of a physical guru. He's really clear about this. He says the subjective experience of the real I is exclusively the subject of Vedanta and can be gained only by personal contact in an attitude of complete surrender with a jnanin who is established in that subjective reality. And though the jnanin appears to be an ordinary man as embodied, really stands beyond the body, senses and mind as Atma itself. So if the disciple feels himself or herself to be embodied, they'll see the guru only as a personality, but slowly the disciple realizes that he or she is that living principle beyond the body, senses and mind, and then with that knowledge of themselves then sees the guru as the living embodiment, the living emanation of that. So it's like you only perceive what you think yourself to be or know yourself to be.
I don't know how this happens, but somehow the idolatry needs to drop for the guru.
I don't see any idolatry in that statement, in this paragraph. No, because I feel that, and this is something personally that I'm newly coming to, I really am starting to see the value of a living teacher, because we don't know what we don't know. There are blocks and subtle, ever increasing subtleties that asking a question of a living teacher, or even being in the presence of a living teacher, seems to have some effect on. Because I was always of the opinion that, the inner teacher, the inner guru, that we don't need an external person. And that's really changing for me, I have to say. I think that's really interesting that that's coming at, not at the start of the path, but further along.
Yeah, it
I don't
is.
see it as idolatry. It's almost like, I suppose it's like in any walk of life, you may learn how to do, so like be an artist, for example, and you get to a certain level of proficiency, and then you go and study with a master. It feels like that to me,
Yeah.
in order to sort of, I don't know.
Yeah.
This I think is exactly what's being pointed to here. And I would have objected in the past to this can be gained only by personal contact. I would have thought, no, that's not right.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think live teachers are game changers, and I think they initiate your understanding. I think they initiate. A live teacher can be the thing you need to take you over the edge, to open, to give you understanding. I agree with that. I don't think you have to sit at a guru's feet. I don't think you have to stay there.
No, I don't think that either.
Yeah.
Jenny says, teachers come into their own at the establishment phase. Yeah. Yeah. And I also think there's something, well, certainly for me, there's something about speaking about this stuff. And I don't know, being able to check certain things, or to explore aspects.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the exploration, and also I think a continued, to have an environment of a growing and a deepening of self-inquiry is necessary. I don't think you don't get the glimpse and wake up and you're established and you're good to go, and go turn on the Netflix and keep doing what you're doing. I think this is a living embodiment, relationship that you have with all of you, and all of the divine. This never ends. Once it starts, it's never finished. It's ever deepening.
Yeah, and that really goes with what Jenny just posted. It's going deeper, seeing the implications that a teacher can really help with. And I can really see that, with this understanding, what are the implications for my relationships? What are the implications for the way that I treat my own body, for example? What are the implications for how I spend my time and how I interact with others? And it's what are the implications of this understanding for my whole life? Amy's saying, are we getting caught up in the word only? Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, they didn't have a guru, so perhaps it isn't limited to one or the other. This said, I'd love to meet a living guru and be able to spend time in their presence.
Yeah, I think we are. I think getting caught up in the word only is accurate. And I think Byron Katie and Eckhart Tolle had teachers. They had their awakening, and I think then they went backwards and they learned what happened. And I think Eckhart Tolle found A Course in Miracles because he really has he has a lot of love passages in the course that he shares, and he makes his funny little jokes with, but he has a love for other teachings, and I don't know that we know that they didn't have gurus.
Yeah. There's a very, very old YouTube video of Byron Katie at a Papaji meeting.
Meeting Papaji.
Which I think preceded that cockroach experience. I think just from the age she was quite young there.
Yeah.
Assuming that's not been doctored in any way. I like what Canty Jocelyn said. Francis said, do you prefer fresh cooked potatoes, meaning the presence of a guru, or potatoes several days old, the guru on YouTube? But if you're hungry enough, you'll devour the old cooked potatoes.
Oh, that's funny.
That's what I did. I devoured Francis's old cooked potatoes for ages, and then actually was able to go and be with him for a little while.
That's funny. That's Canty and Dan are I don't know if you're husband and wife, but I know they're partners, and they drive to Temecula to sit with Francis. I think this is the same Canty that's Dan's wife.
Yeah.
Yes, right. I think so. Lucy said, yes, Tolle taught Course in Miracles after his awakening. Oh, he did? Okay. Yeah. He had, he deepened his understanding. And that's what Byron Katie did too. She had the big glimpse, the cockroach thing, but she probably had many things like that. And just like Suzanne Segal, that woman, collision with the infinite, that she ended up getting a master's degree, a PhD. She became a psychologist, and then she met Jean Klein. And 10 years later, she figured out what happened.
She really suffered, actually, didn't she? Because she didn't understand what had happened to her.
Yeah.
Jenny said, who says Eckhart and Byron Katie didn't have teachers? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And Eve says, I think we are all teachers of God. We shine the light with every sharing.
Yeah, that's true. You can get a lot of clarity from sitting in the presence of other teachers, because consciousness is one, right? So right now we're 57. There's only one here. There's 57 ones. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
so he then goes on to say that when the disciple, taken thus to the brink of the mind, listens to the words of the guru explaining the nature of the positive self, he is suddenly thrown into that supreme experience of the ultimate. It is only then he realizes the state of the guru to be that always, whether in apparent activity or inactivity. Thus alone can truth be ever realized. And then he says another aspect of the same, and he goes on to another kind of explanation. Everything you profess to possess is alien to you, acquired from different sources. He said you have nothing of your own. That's so interesting, isn't it? Just to contemplate that. You have nothing of your own. Your body, your language, your ideas, everything of yours are derived from very many others, each one being a guru to that extent. And you can take that really far, can't you? That, even the breath, it's not ours. The exchange of food and everything, we're not separate from, there's nothing that's mine. Nothing. All your merit or originality consists in rearranging them in a peculiar manner, calling it discovery.
Yeah.
Every activity is the result of some things you have thus acquired from different gurus or sources. Therefore, a guru is essential in every walk of life. If you take that right back to your early childhood, everything that we've been taught, every experience we ever had has all been just amalgamated into this peculiar creature that bears our name.
Yeah. Yeah, this Kendall said, why limit our definition of guru to be equated with a body form? Can it not be all that is nature, etc.? That's actually what he's saying. He's totally taken it off the body form and made it your life experience as your guru. In this context.
And he says, therefore, a guru is essential in every walk of life, much more so in the search for the truth, since you have to give up all that you deem to possess before you're let into the ultimate truth. It's all of that accumulation of stuff that we think makes up who we are. You have to let go of all of that, all of it. It's so weird. You come on this path wanting something, wanting peace, wanting happiness, wanting something, freedom from suffering, or to know the truth, but we want something. And actually what happens is you have to give up not just the wanting, you've got to give up the very wanter.
Yeah, well, because the wanting is wanting what you are. Yeah. That you think you're not. That's so good.
Jenny says, all thoughts, all decisions, all actions come from the universe, not from a separate entity. The body and the mind are totally integrated with the universe. Yep.
Isn't it interesting that you don't choose the obstacles you don't choose your attention, you don't choose your distractions, you don't choose your this or your that, and yet the consciousness chooses it for you. It chooses your distractions for some purpose. It chooses your ordinariness, your objective behavior, and yet you don't choose any of these things. Susan or Bill they didn't choose to be here today.
And do you think, is it true to say consciousness chooses for you? Who's the you that consciousness chooses for? Like, even that is to say too much.
Yeah. There's no chooser, really. There's just a movement. And then the body form, the body mind, and the mind that thinks it's separate, it puts a story on it. and a narrative, and you think that you decided. We're puppets. These are puppets right here. But it is good to, I mean, that you can experience peace when you take the pressure off of thinking that you need to choose something. I mean,
think it goes through a kind of state. Well, it certainly did for me. At first, that notion of I don't choose my thoughts and it's all just happening kind of freaked me out at first. I thought, oh no, does that mean I'm just a robot? I'm just, because that's before the understanding of I am of consciousness comes in, really. And then it's just absolute freedom and enjoyment. There was a definite stage of being freaked out by that.
Me too. Just 2 years ago, I used to have these conversations with Jenny Beal, and I'm going, Jenny, wait a minute. What do you mean we don't choose our thoughts?
But it's quite easy to see that we don't. I always say, if you don't think you choose your thoughts, for the next week, choose only joyful ones and then come and tell me what happened.
Well, I don't even choose those. I don't choose. I mean, I can see that nothing, Bill doesn't choose anything. Bill's just he just somehow wakes up in a bodysuit and says, okay, driver, where are we going today?
And that's when it becomes fun, though, isn't it? That's when it becomes fun.
Yeah. He says in the last page on 208, when you are forced to examine, now let me start at the top of the page. When you are engaged in examining the fundamentals of anything, you should not allow your past samskaras to come in and taint your judgment. The habit channels of the mind are, of course, difficult to overcome. So you have to guard yourself strongly against them. And even in this regard, he's implying that we're choosing to guard.
That's exactly what I was going to say. How do you do that if you're not choosing? You can't do that.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
he's speaking to consciousness. He's speaking to what I would call awakening mind or awakening awareness. He's speaking to consciousness, and he's not speaking to the person. That's what I get. I don't know what you get, Jenny. What do you get, Jenny?
Yes, I think you can see it that way. I think it's more that he is trying to give you an understanding, and once you have the understanding, then everything sorts itself out. So he's giving you the understanding that your past habits, so beliefs which are part of the way your mind and to some extent your body has operated all this time, might come in and, as he says, taint your judgment. So if you understand that that's a possibility, if you might see that happens. So it's a noticing. And then because of that understanding, it's the understanding which effectively destroys the habit in that moment. So you don't actually do anything. There's no one doing anything in any of that. It's just a noticing and an understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. And when he says to guard yourself strongly, this reminds me of a Bible verse: to put on the full armor of Christ, to guard your put on the helmet of salvation and the breastplate of righteousness, and shod your feet with the word of truth. All of those things.
Satan is prowling around. All our past conditioning is swirling around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yet those are just. I'm sure that the language was put forth in different terms before it was in the clarity. It just got distorted. But this is guard your heart, to be alert, be vigilant, and I would say vigilant isn't a doing, it's a being. Pause and be quiet, and let consciousness move.
Mhm. It's just telling you this is something serious. When he says guard yourself strongly, he's saying that this is a serious problem for you, so notice it. And the fact that you've read this and the fact that we've discussed this today means that in the future, the chances are you will notice, that's a belief coming in, and that's tainting my understanding. And it's a belief. I don't know that it's true.
Yeah, it's self-resolved in the noticing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that we've read it, it's come in. Yes.
Reading it creates the guard.
Yes, right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is very helpful, actually. It says after it says, when you are forced to examine what you call an object strictly and impartially, you find that you rely upon knowledge and experience alone for the proof of the object. But knowledge and experience are always within you, or you could say they're always on, and do not go out to meet the so-called object. So knowledge and experience can in no case prove the existence of the objects, but only their existence as ideas quite within the mind's realm. Thus, the objects admit themselves to be nothing but ideas. These, in their turn, are again cognized by that self-luminous I principle still further within. By applying the same argument, you see that thoughts and feelings admit themselves to be nothing but that I principle. Therefore, you see that what appears as an object is nothing but your own luminous self. Everything is I.
Yeah, that goes right back to the first one that we looked at, doesn't it? Knowledge has nothing to know except knowledge.
Yeah. And then the experienced is always one with the experience. So if you just kind of pause with that, the experience is always one with the experience. You just kind of, I mean, it seems like we're retraining. There's a retraining occurring in the noticing. It's all in the noticing and the self. The noticing is like a self-inquiry. It's a check-in as awareness. Oh, looks like Rick West is on the move. In the house, the mind is a false knowing. It produces an interpretation. Yes, not knowledge. In the absence of mind, the knower, consciousness, and the known, the world, are identical. No separation. This is knowledge. Yeah. And you could also say the mind that thought it was a separate thing. Because the mind still stays. The mind doesn't go. It just comes under, or it comes within the leadership, so to speak, of the I principle. He says the experience is always one with the experience. This is applicable in all realms. And now, when he talks about all realms, Jenny, what's he talking about? Is he talking about dimensional realities?
Is he not just talking about like the gross realm and the subtle realm?
Oh,
Yes, I think it's the realm of the physical realm and the mental
okay.
realm, which exactly which conform to gross and subtle in the Vedantic tradition.
Okay. Oh, we're past our closing time. Well, hey everyone, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us and to extend your time. And I just got lost in the conversation there. Thank you for being here, everyone. And I don't know who our co-host is next week. Jenny Beal, would you be the co-host next week? I don't. So would you be here? Because I
Yeah,
have.
that's possible. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's meet up here next week. I don't have a formal schedule. I have emails from some of you that said I can do this week and I can do that week, but I haven't put it into a schedule. So we'll have Jenny next week, and I'll put a schedule together for the rest of our time together. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Susan. See you next
Thanks,
week.
everyone. Bye bye.